Our film begins with Becky and her husband Dan climbing mountains. They're at a very high altitude, continuing to ascend until they reach the summit. Dan is very professional at climbing and enthusiastic about reaching the top, unlike Becky, whose foot is about to slip and she's about to fall, but she tries to hold on, remaining fearful. Dan keeps encouraging her, and their friend Hunter is joining them in the climb. Suddenly, Dan reaches a spot on the mountain where a bird unexpectedly flies out in front of him, causing him to lose his balance. He falls off the mountain, dangling by a rope, unable to reach the edge of the mountain to grab on again. He tries to swing with the rope to reach the edge of the mountain before the rope slips and he falls. Time is not on his side, and the rope detaches from where it's fixed. Dan falls from the high altitude and dies before the eyes of his wife Becky and their friend Hunter. 51 weeks after Dan's death, Becky's life is completely devastated, and she's unable to live without her husband. Her father James tries to call her or contact her in any way, but she's isolated from the world and refuses to talk to anyone, spending most of her time in a bar. She keeps calling Dan's number to hear his voice in the recorded message, telling him how much she misses him. When she leaves the bar, she finds her father waiting for her. He tells her she needs to snap out of it and live her life, and that Dan wasn't the perfect husband for her to mourn him for all this time. She tells him that this is the worst way for a father to comfort his daughter. He makes her understand that he's trying to wake her up from what she's going through, and if the situation were reversed and she had died, Dan wouldn't be ruining his life like she is. She leaves him and walks away without replying. When she gets home, she calls Dan again to hear his voice. She finds that the number has been disconnected, and she breaks down further, deciding to commit suicide. Before she takes all the pills in front of her, she finds her friend Hunter calling her, so she reconsiders her decision to commit suicide and answers. The two meet the next day. Hunter tells her that her father called her some time ago and told her about Becky's devastated state, and that she's coming to her now with an offer she won't like, but she should try to be open to it. She shows her pictures of a TV tower, a tower about 6 hours away from their location. She had planned to climb it at the end of the week, but she didn't want to do it alone and wanted Becky with her. She tells her it would be a beautiful tribute to Dan, and perhaps she could even take Dan's ashes and scatter them from the top. After much thought, Becky agrees to climb the tower with Hunter. They immediately head there with their equipment and Dan's ashes to be scattered from the top. They stop at a restaurant near the tower. Becky wants to charge her phone because its battery is low. They ask the waiter about the TV tower's location because it's not on the map. She tells them that the tower doesn't need a map to be seen. She points to a distant, massive structure. Becky is surprised that the tower is so tall even though it hasn't been working for a while. Hunter explains that the mast on its top is for planes to notice it, and that in the past, this tower was the tallest in America, but now it's abandoned and will be demolished next winter. They spend the day at the nearest hotel so they can start climbing the next day, and they prepare all their equipment. Hunter has a YouTube channel where she posts all her videos. She records a video of herself saying that her next adventure will be climbing the top of the TV tower with her friend Becky. The tower's height is more than 2,000 feet, or about 610 meters. Hunter is focused on her phone and doesn't notice the truck coming down the road. She manages to stop at the last moment before she has an accident and her car is destroyed. This is almost a sign for them not to continue their adventure, but they continue their way to the tower, and they reach its gate, which is locked. So they have to continue walking until they reach the tower. Hunter photographs the tower before she climbs it and says that it's currently the 4th tallest tower in America. There's a ladder 1,800 feet high inside the iron cage. After that, they'll have an external ladder 200 feet long to reach the summit. When Becky sees the tower in front of her, she's afraid to climb it. She tries to back out of her decision, but Hunter encourages her, telling her that she's strong and will be able to climb, and that she'll be with her and won't leave her. They start climbing the tower, and it's clear that the tower is rusty because it's very old and susceptible to collapse. But this is something they don't notice. Becky grabs a rung of the ladder, and it breaks in her hand, and she sees it fall between the tower's iron bars. It seems that special bolts for the tower are loose, rusty, and broken. They continue climbing until they reach the wires that support the tower, which means they've covered half the climbing distance and reached about 1,000 feet, the same height as the Eiffel Tower. They stop to rest for a bit and drink water from the bag on their backs. Then they continue climbing, and the higher they go, the more the rust increases until they exit the iron cage and stand on an external platform on the tower, with only 200 feet above them to the tower's summit. They continue, but this time the ladder isn't within an iron cage, and the tower's structure isn't around them. Hunter is very excited to reach the top, unlike Becky, who is terrified and wants to go down, but her friend doesn't allow her. There's an air duct installed in the middle of the ladder and they have to go through it to continue to the top. Hunter tries to joke with her, telling her that the ladder is clearly rusty and she moves on it violently, not noticing that her movement on the ladder loosens the bolts to the point where they fall. Becky hears the bolts hitting the tower's iron structure. The two finally reach the highest possible point on the tower, at an altitude of about 2,000 feet from the ground. Hunter hangs on the platform they're standing on, holding it with one hand so Becky can photograph her with the drone she has. As she climbs, she convinces Becky to hang with one hand like her to overcome her fear, just as she used to do. They take pictures, and then Becky takes out her husband Dan's ashes and cries as she talks about him, saying he was always there for her whenever she needed him. And now she's alone. She scatters his ashes in the air as a farewell to him. Becky starts to descend from the tower. As soon as she puts her foot on the ladder, it starts to shake violently. It shifts from its place, and Becky falls from it, secured by a rope tied to Hunter, who hasn't moved from her spot yet. Hunter manages to grab the iron bar next to her before she's also pulled down, and they both fall from the tower. Hunter tries to hold Becky with all her might so she doesn't slip or fall with her until she can pull her back onto the platform they're sitting on. They wonder how they'll get down since the ladder is completely destroyed, and they can't find network on their phones because they're so high that the phone can't find any signal. There's a small box in the column containing a binoculars and a flare gun with one shot. This is their only way to get someone's attention. Before Becky gets more scared, Hunter tries to reassure her, telling her that the sound of the ladder hitting the ground must have been loud enough to attract anyone's attention, and that the police are on their way to rescue them. They see their bag with water hanging below them in the air because Becky had it when she was about to fall. They sit together, hoping someone will come to rescue them. Becky takes out her phone to film Hunter saying they're trapped 2,000 feet high on a tower with no way down. Becky asks her why she loves filming and why she posts everything she does on YouTube. Hunter replies that it's because of Dan, because he made her feel that life is very short and she needs to record every important moment in it. 5 hours pass, and there's no movement around the tower. They're scanning for anything with the binoculars they have. Hunter picks up her phone again to make sure there's no signal. She remembers that she took a picture before climbing the tower and posted it on Instagram. She gets an idea to write posts on Instagram and lower the phone with the rope she has all the way down. Maybe it will find a signal and the post will spread, and someone will come to rescue them from their location. They tie the phone to the rope and Hunter lowers it as far as possible, but it still doesn't find a signal. Becky thinks that if they threw the phone and it was well protected and reached the ground without breaking, then the post would definitely spread because there's a signal on the ground. So Becky puts the phone in Hunter's shoe and secures it very well, and they throw it from the top of the tower. They wait for a while for any movement at the tower until they notice a man and his dog walking below the tower. The man is talking on the phone, and the dog passes next to Hunter's phone, which is damaged and broken from the fall. They keep screaming and yelling, hoping the man will hear them, but to no avail, even after they throw a shoe at him, hoping he'll hear its sound. But he remains focused on his call and walks towards a parked vehicle far away. Hunter suggests they wait until sunset and then fire the flare they have so the man sees it and rescues them. They remain seated, waiting for the sun to set. Becky is looking at her wedding photos with Dan and notices for the first time that Hunter wasn't happy, and her gaze was strange towards Dan at the wedding. Hunter interrupts her thoughts and tells her that the man has started walking and they must fire the flare immediately at the last moment. Becky notices that Hunter has a tattoo with the number 143, 1 equals I, 4 equals love, 3 equals you. And at that moment she understands that there was a relationship between Dan and Hunter. She confronts her to confirm her feelings and tells her that her husband Dan couldn't say he loved her, so he always told her the number she had tattooed. Hunter falls silent and apologizes for what she did, saying it was involuntary. She confesses that there was a relationship between them 4 months before his death, and she couldn't confess what happened. She keeps apologizing to her until the two remain silent. The sun rises on them. Becky has accepted the idea that no one will rescue them from the tower, and that no one reacted to the post that was or wasn't even published, and the phone is broken. Besides, she won't throw her phone this time because there's nothing to wrap the phone in to prevent it from breaking. Hunter thinks about trying to reach their bag hanging in the air because it contains water in the drone. There's no other way for them. Before Hunter descends by rope, she apologizes to Becky for what she did because they're not sure she'll be able to return. Hunter slowly descends to the end of the rope, and there's a small distance between her and the bag, but the rope ends, so she has to take the rope off her harness and jump into the air in front of her. She succeeds in reaching the bag. She tries to reach the rope again, but it's far from her. She tries to use the selfie stick and hang the bag in a knot in the rope, thus reducing the weight and making it move towards her so the wind doesn't easily push it away. She succeeds in reaching the rope. She starts climbing back up to Becky. Becky helps her and pulls the rope upwards to speed up Hunter's climb. Before Hunter reaches the top, her hand slips, and she falls. At that moment, Becky is shocked and unable to look at Hunter because she's afraid she fell and died like Dan. But she gathers her strength and looks at Hunter, finding her sitting on the bag after grabbing it at the last moment. She tells Becky that she's fine, but her hand is badly hurt, and she won't be able to climb up to her, and Becky has to pull her up. Becky starts pulling Hunter until she gets her up. Becky drinks some water. Then she writes a distress message and attaches it to the drone and tries to fly it to the hotel they were in so someone can come and help them. After the drone moves away from them, its battery is about to run out and it might fall at any moment, so they bring it back to them again before it's also destroyed. They stay there until the second night falls on them. Becky faints involuntarily from exhaustion. When she wakes up, she finds that Hunter is not beside her and has disappeared. Becky goes crazy and keeps looking for her and calling her name, terrified at the thought that her friend fell asleep and fell from the tower, until she finds her dead behind her, with birds eating from her body. At that moment, she wakes up startled from a nightmare. Becky looks up at the iron bar and sees the warning light flashing on and off. At that moment, she gets an idea to use the light's electricity to charge the drone. They wait for the sun to rise so they can see well. Becky climbs up with the drone and its charger to the light, removes it from its place, and puts the charger in place of the light to connect it to electricity. The charger's pin is short, so she uses Dan's wedding ring as an electrical connector. She succeeds in turning on the charger. Becky remains hanging on the iron bar until she finds a large eagle attacking her because of the smell of blood on her legs. Her bag falls from her, and Hunter doesn't even try to grab it. She tries to resist as much as she can until the drone is charged, and then she descends and rests for a bit. She asks Hunter why she didn't try to grab the bag. Hunter avoids the answer and doesn't reply to her question. Then Becky turns on the drone and flies it towards the nearby hotel. Before the drone reaches the hotel, a truck appears and hits the drone, throwing it into the middle of the road without anyone bothering to even look at it. Becky has completely lost hope of being rescued. Hunter remains unusually calm. Becky thinks of throwing her phone like they did with Hunter's phone in the shoe. Perhaps it won't break. Becky asks her friend to give her the shoe she's wearing, but Hunter tells her she can't give her anything because the shoe isn't there, nor is she, because she's dead below. And currently, she's just a part of her imagination, because her real body fell below into the air, because she couldn't hold the bag when it slipped from the rope and fell into the air and died. And that she's alone now. Becky is shocked and keeps crying until she calms down a bit. She records a video of herself apologizing to her father James for how she treated him and how she behaved towards him, and she wishes she could see him. She remains sitting on the tower without moving until the eagle stops next to her because of the smell of blood on her legs. Becky grabs it and keeps hitting its head against the iron until she kills it. She knows she has to eat something or she'll die, so she eats raw meat to regain some of her strength. She decides she's going to go down to Hunter's body. She sends a message to the police and puts her phone inside Hunter's shoe. Then she puts the whole thing inside Hunter's body itself after the eagles ate part of it. She throws Hunter from the top of the tower so she falls to the ground and her phone doesn't break, and thus the message reaches. She remains sitting on the tower, waiting for rescue or death. Her father finally arrives at the tower's location, and the police are there, and the police helicopter is ready to rescue her. When James arrives at the location, he finds a body bag in front of him, and he fears his daughter is inside. But his daughter calls to him and he knows she's alive and has been rescued. She tells him she loves him and apologizes for everything she did to him. Don't forget to like and follow if you liked the video. Bye-bye.